Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent news story. And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and...
Here I Stand Theology Podcast is a ministry of Reformata Baptist Church and a member of the Truth and Love Network. Please consider heading over to YouTube, Spotify, or your podcatcher of choice and subscribing to the Here I Stand Theology Podcast today.
Here I stand. I can do no other. God help me.
And here we are, live from Ramsey Manor in the studio, live via the interwebs. We have with us a man on your screen that you may not recognize by face. However, we do. That's the reason he's here, because we do know him. We don't want, stranger wackadoodles coming into the studio in real life person or live via the interwebs. But we have Brother Ron Day with us today. He is a published author. Ron is a man of many hats. He's a Christian man. He is a married man. And I will say this, since I know you so well, your biopic that we put on the thumbnail makes you look way tougher than you really are.
Well, that was the point. Yeah.
Well, Ron,
can't be a weak author. I got to look tough.
That's right. That's right. Well, we are glad that you're with us today, and we are excited to get to talk with you and to you about your brand new book. You are a published author. How does it feel?
You know, it felt really surreal at first. I was really blown away. I wrote the book because I enjoy writing, and I wanted to tell the story. But then when I published it, people actually bought it and and read it. And then several people made reviews. And honestly, some of the first couple of reviews were folks that I knew. But then all of a sudden, strangers started posting reviews and people I'd never heard of. So it's been kind of surreal. I knew that I was putting it out there for public consumption, but I did not expect for it to be received the way it was. I mean, I've really been pleasantly surprised and terrified. My wife was like, "You got to calm down. You really," because I was so nervous publishing it. I was worried people would think it was awful, and maybe somebody does. But if you do think it's awful, please don't tell me.
So tell me about where the numbers are and how the numbers are stacking up right now on the interwebs for you in the book.
Well, I used Amazon, but it's available on any platform. So Ingram Spark, Barnes and Noble, you'll find it there. Of course, on Amazon. I used Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing to self-publish. So I'm an indie author, and honestly, I wouldn't have it any other way. I've spoken to a few folks, friends that I've made in the community, and some of them have traditional publishing deals, and you give up so much. Now, you get a lot in return. You do get a lot in return, but you give up so much when it comes to the control of your book and what you can do with it and where you can sell it, and sometimes even how it's written. So I'm actually very happy that I chose to go this route. I'd probably still be looking for an agent at this point if I had try to get a traditional deal. But yeah, I've been really pleased with how the book's done. And as far as the numbers, okay, you asked about numbers.
Mhm.
On opening day, it dropped October 15th, and by the 16th, I was 36,000th out of all the books on Amazon. And if you do a little, you only have to do a little bit of research. You'll find that there's about 300 million books on Amazon.
Wow.
So to be 36,000th out of 300 million, that's pretty strong on opening day. And then as sales went on, I wound up in the top 100 in 2 categories, in psychic thrillers and witches and wizard thrillers. And so I was 81st. So what that means is, basically you're on a bestseller list if you reach the top 100. But I'm not. But what we usually hear about is the number 1 bestseller. That's definitely not me. But I was on the list at least for a little while. Now the sales have dropped off. I'm still selling a few books each day, but those first couple of days were extremely exciting and very overwhelming.
That is amazing.
Wow, man, that is awesome. And I think when a person is disconnected from an author as far as not knowing them, they kind of lose sight of all this, all of these details and all this cool stuff. And not only that, but how it affects you, right? As far as a human being and a family man and a cousin. So by the way, again, as I mentioned earlier, Ron is my brother in Christ. He's my friend of many, many years, but he's also my cousin by marriage. So it's cool. It was cool just to get to go to your house to celebrate right with you when your book released and to see all the people that came in and to know that you're not like J.K. Rowling or anything like that just yet, right? Where you're used to all this attention and all this, paparazzi and so on and so forth. But it's incredible and it's such a great blessing to be able to enjoy this close to you, as far as that goes.
Well, thank you. I'm glad you guys were here. We had that was all my wife's doing. She put that release party together, and she was going to keep it a surprise, and I'm not sure how she had planned to do that because we had to do a lot of prep work before everybody showed up, and I'm not sure how she would have kept that a secret right up to the moment. But ultimately, she wound up telling me about it. But I was so happy to have so many folks come over, and a few folks that I hadn't seen since 1990. The year that I graduated. So there were a couple of friends from high school that were here that I had not seen since graduation day. And so that was exciting too. And I've just really been blown away. Apparently my book has now been purchased in somewhere in the Caribbean.
Oh man.
And in England. I'm shocked. I figured it would be family and a few friends, but again, I've just been blown away by the response, and I'm grateful. I'm extremely grateful.
That is incredible. So let's get right into this. Again, I want to respect your time. Like I joked earlier, right? We don't want to get 30 minutes into a 6-hour podcast and realize that we're not.
I don't have to be anywhere until 8:30 tomorrow morning. So
but I do. You know me. I gotta try to be in bed by 8 or between 8 and 9 anyway.
Oh, that's right.
Because I'm an old fogey, but you are a little bit older fogey as yourself.
I am.
So with this, let's move right on into our questions here then tonight. So the book itself, as it says on the top of your book there, supernatural mystery. I put on the thumbnail for fans of supernatural thrillers. Yep. So concerning this genre, the avenue in which you chose to go down in writing this book and the themes and the topics, so on and so forth. So let's begin with just kind of a basic question. Do you believe in any supernatural phenomena yourself, or do you just write about it?
Yes, I do believe in some supernatural phenomena. there mostly the supernatural phenomena that I believe in. It's obviously there's a spiritual aspect to my faith as well as a Christian, but apart from that, I absolutely believe there are things that go bump in the night that we don't have an explanation for, and that kind of fuels. I love those kinds of stories, and so that's. So to answer the question shortly, which is difficult for me, but to answer the question shortly is just yes, I do believe in some spiritual phenomena, and I really enjoy embellishing on the few things that I do believe are out there. I have another good friend. He's an author, Bill Scott. You've probably heard me talk about him before. He wrote a book, The Day Satan Called, and it's his true testimony about some supernatural stuff that happened to him, really scary stuff. So yeah, I've got a few reasons to believe that there are those things out there, but obviously the things in the book are very embellished or dramatic effect.
Well, to that, did any like specific religious texts, Bible texts, Bible doctrines, or even theologians, have any of those influenced your writing, either intentionally or unexpectedly? And maybe even, when I say unexpectedly, not during the process, but after the process, you realize that these are actual views and things.
Yeah. Well, honestly, Claude Henry Smoot. No, I'm kidding. That's a throwback. Let's live anyway.
Oh, yes.
So,
praise the Lord, another soul saved by Jimmy Lee Farnsworth.
Now I got to watch that movie. Anyway, so no, honestly, it wasn't religious text or scripture or anything. It was really more church culture. In one part of the book, I describe Twin Oaks Church, and that's the focal church in the book, and that the way I describe the culture of that church, people rolling in as they get out of their cars, worn Bibles stuck under their arms, and kids in patent leather shoes, and kind of describing a typical Sunday morning at Twin Oaks Church. That's what I grew up with. That was the church culture I knew, and so there's an old expression, write what you know, and I drew from that. I drew from childhood memories of folks getting out of pickup trucks and dressed up in their best for Sunday morning, and those Bibles under their arms, walking in. And of course, the churches I went to, they were all smoking outside. They had, before they went in, that was just, they grouped up, and that was just the culture. That was the church culture. And so I drew heavily from that.
Wow. So obviously, being a Christian, being raised as a preacher's son, being maybe being even toted around to even different churches, you get to see that. You get to see the differences and the similarities between in church culture. So do you think that horror or the supernatural can serve a redemptive purpose in storytelling?
I absolutely do. Matter of fact, there's a key character named Bo Carter. He's a secondary character, but he becomes the protector in the story. I don't want to give too much away because you got to read the book. But he becomes the protector in the book. But when we first meet Bo, he is not a good guy, and he's actually in the act of doing something extremely awful. But that's when we first meet him. So, but through this process, and through walking through some of this supernatural stuff, he actually finds some redemption. And so, a subtext of the story is really Bo's seeking redemption, where from a life where he's kind of definitely gone down the wrong path.
Okay. So in that, I guess, in that same vein, why do you think that you, as you were writing this, as you decided to write it, actually, because it had to be a predetermination that this was the genre you're going to go in, why do you think you were drawn to fear and mystery as opposed to maybe satire or even romance, because when everybody thinks of novels, they think romance novels. But what we're talking about here is a supernatural thriller along the lines of in novel form. Why do you think you were drawn to fear and mystery?
That's a great question. My personality has always been that way. I feel comfortable with stories that are scary. I feel for whatever reason, but psychologically, most people enjoy being scared as long as they know there's no real fear of being hurt. Like roller coasters or haunted houses, they go into those, or haunted corn mazes, which is very popular at Halloween. As long as they know, in their mind that they're not actually in danger, they enjoy being scared. And part of that, it makes you feel a little bit alive. That's why there are some people that'll jump out of perfectly good airplanes. It makes them feel alive to put their lives on the line. And so while I don't enjoy roller coasters anymore, I do still enjoy those controlled, scary moments. There's so many of us that really enjoy that. That's why scary movies are so popular, because people enjoy being scared as long as they know they're not actually in danger. I don't know if I answered your question, though, to be honest.
You did, but maybe go a little bit further in depth here. So obviously you were looking at your audience, right? Mm-hmm. Based on what you just said, it sounds to me like you were saying, basically based on the makeup of the human psyche, right? That people like to be scared, so on and so forth. So what made you decide this is definitely the avenue that I'm going to take in writing this book?
So what's really funny is when I first started writing this book, I created the main character. The main character is a female main character, but she is me. And when I created her, I thought the story was going to take a completely different direction. I did not realize I was going to be writing anything supernatural, that it was going to be a thriller. And that's kind of why when we first meet Donna, there's a lot of relatable experiences that she's going through. She's going through some domestic problems. She's going through some very normal human things, but little notes here and there let you know, okay, something's just off from level here. Something's not normal about this situation. That happened organically. It was not when I first started writing this that I just created this character, and I poured myself. The circumstances that she finds herself in were the same circumstances I found myself in when I was writing her. It was very therapeutic for me to create this person who struggles with anxiety, who struggles with control of their life and circumstances, and walking through this book, this story with her, was really therapeutic for me, because watching her seek and find control and power that she didn't even know she had, that's very therapeutic, because many of us, that's what we want. We want to feel as though we have control, or we have some sort of power over our circumstances. And that's Donna in a nutshell. And so when we first meet her, she's going through some difficult times, but by the end of the story, and I'm not going to tell what, but you got to read the book. I'm bad about spoilers. I give way too much away.
That's okay. That's okay. So, and by the way, just to the watchers of the podcast, what he just said right there was no different than when we were at his house for the book release party. Ron wasn't expecting to, or even thinking about having to read an excerpt. My wife asked, "Are you going to read an excerpt like, published authors do?" And so he carefully chose a excerpt and he said verbally again there, "I'm not going to give it away. You need to buy the book." So in that, real quick, let's take a little side road here. Let's take a little rabbit trail. You probably noticed, whether you're watching the podcast or you're listening to the podcast, that Ron seems to have that buttery smooth radio voice. So a little bit, tell us a little bit, Ron, about who you are. And I know we could have done this at the beginning, but it fits right here. Tell us a little bit, or basically a little bit about who you are, what you do at this day, and kind of how you arrived at your current vocation.
Okay. Well, I'll just start with my current vocation. My current vocation is really to make new friends and then immediately ask them for money. That's my job. I'm in development. I raise funds for a nonprofit called Remote Area Medical, and we provide free medical, dental, and vision care to anyone that needs it all over the country through community-based pop-up clinics. And that's what I do right now. Now, before that, I spent 14 years in radio. My first radio job was with a little live and local station in Knoxville, Tennessee. I was raised in Blount County, Tennessee, in the sticks. It wasn't the end of the earth, but you could see it from there. And so
Yes.
it was. So we grew up on a farm, and Claude's wife, April, and I were just two of about 25 cousins growing up, working on a farm. If you've never heard of gathering and having bean breakings and corn shuckings, we had those.
Yeah.
That was considered a family gathering. And so that's kind of where I come from. And obviously that I drew a lot from that when writing this book. But yeah, so after 3 years in radio locally in Knoxville, I started working for a large Christian radio network called K-Love and Air One Radio. Worked for them for 10 years. And man, I got to meet some extraordinarily talented people. I'm still humbled by some of the memories of the people that I just got to sit and eat with, artists that I got to talk family stuff with. It was crazy. I met John and Corey Cooper at Skillet, and the one thing that John really wanted to talk about was his kids. And we had met years earlier. I was in a band that opened for him years before that, but then after being in radio, we crossed paths again. We crossed paths a lot over the years, over that 10 years. But it's just, I don't want to get too far on that part of it, but that's where I learned a little bit about radio, a little bit about broadcasting, and at the end, the last few years I was with K-Love, I was actually producing and hosting a podcast for K-Love and working with Crisis Response Care, which is we traveled and trained agencies, whether it's law enforcement, police, fire, EMS, border patrol, ICE agents. We trained all of them in critical incident stress management. And so that was the last few years, and all the while dragging this podcast unit along with me all over the country and recording those podcasts. But it was fun, and so I still enjoy the broadcast part of it. But what that's helped me with is articulating a story. And so that really helped me with my writing, and watching myself. And my wife could tell that she did my proofing. She was my editor. So she did my proofing and everything. And so as she was reading it, she could tell some of the earlier parts that I'd written before I got a little more seasoned in my writing. And she said, okay, well, this gets better as it goes along. And well, that's good. I would hate that it got worse. So it was a good sign.
Well, with that little tidbit of information, let's take just a moment to hear from our sponsor for this podcast.
Across America, countless people can't access the health care they desperately need. At Remote Area Medical, we believe everyone deserves quality care. That's why we offer free dental, vision, and medical services at mobile pop-up clinics nationwide. Just compassionate care from volunteer professionals. Your tax-deductible donation makes these clinics possible, changing lives and creating healthier communities. Join us today in bringing essential health care to those in need at ramusa.org.
All right. So if you are a keen listener, you likely recognize the voice on that promo. And if you listen to the podcast intro itself, you heard that same voice. This is the voice that says you need to pay attention to what's happening on the Here I Stand Theology podcast. In case, just a quick note for our consumers today as well. Want to remind you, if you would, please head over to the YouTubes and search out the Here I Stand Theology podcast. If you would, give us a like. Make sure leave comments on this video. We will do our best to either answer them ourselves, or we'll give Ron a holler and let him tell us what we need to say or do in response to those comments. Or maybe he can even do it himself. But if you would, please do that. Head over to the YouTubes It'll help us out. We're still trying to reach 1,000 subscribers. So once we do,
You're 999 now. Just need one more.
then we'll climb that hill again. And you, after watching this podcast, will be able to say
That is amazing.
All right, so let's get back at it here. So obviously, you mentioned just a few minutes ago the metaphors that you're using in your book, relational, of course, and you obviously answered the question that they are not necessarily concocted out of thin air, but they are real based on the world that you live in. So how is it that when folks read this book, particularly viewing the supernatural elements in your story, right, as metaphors for internal or societal struggles, primarily internal struggles, how do you think that folks are going to take to that? Are they going to be able to identify with the primary character and say, you know what, this is a real person that's experiencing real issues, both physical and spiritual, and how is that going to transfer and relate? Because obviously, the goal is not just to scare, not just to frighten, but it's to what's the bottom, or what's the primary aim on that?
I would love to say that I'm some sort of scholar that had a societal subtext there that make the world a better place. But the truth is, it's entertainment. I'm I'm entertained by those stories. Now, obviously, the main character, she's relatable because all of the experiences that she's having, especially in the beginning, are real experiences that I had. So there's a lot of me there. And the one thing that I get from people that read it is, wow, Donna was so relatable. That's what hooked me. I wanted to see what her story was. How did that unfold? And because of her relatability, and because she's not a hero like we picture. She's not going to be in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. She is a hero because she's very human. She has problems. She's going through normal everyday struggles that other people experience, and so she's very relatable. But in finding herself and her power and her strength, I hope that people can draw from that, because it was therapeutic for me. That, as I said earlier, that was it for me. But honestly, the bottom line for the book really was just entertainment. I would want people to be entertained by it. If they draw something deeper from that, fantastic. I think that's great. If they're encouraged because they see Donna and through her struggles, and they're able to relate to that and maybe apply some of that to their own life, then great. I think that's awesome. But this book was not meant to be educational. Right. It is meant to be entertaining. And so a lot of the lore, the Appalachian lore that I drew from, came from our family and being passed down. When we're growing up in an Appalachian-based family, our great-grandfather, George Washington Tipton, came out of Cades Cove. And so he was a natural herbal healer. He would collect things to make his own medicines. And that's just, and he had all of this lore about sin eaters. Sin eaters is a big part of the story in this book. Sin eaters were a real thing. They were actually designated people to go to someone who had just passed and actually go through a ceremony and consume bread and salt and over this dead body in order to absorb their sins, so that this person could go on unhindered. And then that person would have to carry those sins throughout life. Now, as a Christian, that's obviously backwards from Christian theology, but again, it's entertainment. But the lore of the sin eater is absolutely real. And so those people really existed that performed those ceremonies and lived that kind of life, thinking that they were taking on the sins of this person so that they could go on. The rites that you see Donna perform that are in this book and stuff, those came from real things. I did embellish, obviously, but they're all rooted in some sort of historical truth from the Appalachian region.
Great. So, and to that, I would say that it's important for, like what you just said, for folks to be able to I mean, I'm sure that's the goal ultimately of everybody, but for folks to be able to discern and to distinguish the difference, right, between lore, like you said, lore, and very real, maybe not real reality wouldn't be a good term. I'm not a smart man, but spiritual wickedness is a reality. It's a reality. And so in the book there, so what's a theological idea? Because again, spiritual darkness is a theological truth. Mm-hmm. Right? A lot of folks won't go so far as to say that, but I would have to say you have to be able to understand as a Christian person that spiritual darkness and spiritual warfare is a reality. We're taught that in the scriptures. So what is maybe a theological idea or question that maybe secretly inspired a scene or a character in your book, even if the reader don't catch what's going on?
Yeah. The pastor of Twin Oaks Church in the book, I describe him as someone who's kind of lost his fire along the way. He prays with the hurting. He mows the lawn on Wednesdays. But at night, when he closes up the doors of the church, he feels that heaviness that falls on Redemption Falls. And so I think for him, he's probably that would be a cautionary tale, I guess, would be the pastor of that church. And you can learn more about him, and we talk a little bit about his past things that he's done. I'm really bad about spoilers. I'm trying hard to walk a line here because I want you to read the book. But that's probably more of as far as spiritual caution goes. That would be him. He's kind of, he's still a believer, but he has seen things that he knows are real and dark. But he's lost his fire, and I think I actually describe it that way in the book, that the fire had dimmed over the years, and so now he's really just going through the motions, and keeps a lot. And there's actually a passage in the book where there's an unspoken truth as he's talking to Donna during one scene, and she gets the indication that there's a whole lot more that he's not telling her, and so to find that out, you got to read the book.
Very clever, you stinking author. I can talk to you like that because we're mentally entangled, as we used to say.
Yes, sir.
So if here's a question then to bring it back into the here and now again. If one of the characters from your novel showed up at a church service, what do you think the congregation's reaction would be? And you can choose, because you're the author, in detail the backstories of even, the supporting cast. So if one character from your novel showed up at a church service, what do you think the congregation's reaction would be? Let's just say Donna.
Okay, well, Donna, obviously the main character, she's the hero. But she actually goes to church every Sunday. She's, or at least did most of her life. And so she's obviously, I don't think anybody would see her as anything other than someone who's going through a difficult time. I think that's how they would see her. Now, I want to mention this because I don't actually mention. I mentioned Bo Carter earlier. Bo becomes the protector in this scenario, and as it happens, Bo was actually 33 years old, and that was on purpose, but I don't actually state that. Right. I knew you'd get it. But I don't actually state that in the book, but he's actually 33 years old and he's the protector. So now for those of you, you can, dwell on that. But anyways, as far as showing up in a church, honestly, any of these characters, even Leah Carter, who becomes part of this trio, and you meet her much later in the book. One of the things that I've gotten from this one, and the second book is on its way. It'll be released October 1st, 2026. So the second book, you're going to get a whole lot more of Bo and a whole lot more of Leah along with Donna. And you get a lot more character exposition than we had before. And that's actually what I get most for most people is that I really wanted to get more of those characters, especially Leia, because she shows up so late in the story. But those folks will be very pleased with the second book, and you're going to get a lot more of them.
Do you have a title for
Again.
the second book yet?
I do.
Can you divulge that or not? No. Okay. Moving on.
Not yet. Not
Yeah,
yet.
So that's fine. That's not fine. I'm not pressing you. I'm just
Only because it's a working title, and you never know what might happen.
absolutely. So my next question, you've actually answered that really. How do faith or doubt operate in your characters' lives? And did that mirror anything you've personally wrestled with? Obviously, you said that Donna is a similar mirror representation of yourself,
Yeah.
right? The struggles that you face and the things that you've gone through in your life. But
anxiety is a big part of that. So I have struggled with anxiety for a lot of years, and sometimes triggers can be absolutely just, you have no idea what triggered it, but suddenly you've got this teapot that's bubbling over internally. And so Donna experiences that same thing. Now for Donna, it turns out that it's something different than she thought. Again, you got to read the book to find out what that is. But she's struggling with this uncontrollable anxiety, this fight or flight feeling, and that came directly from my experiences in my battle with anxiety. So faith actually plays a big part in that, because you need a lot of faith to help yourself overcome it. There are natural things that you can do. I have a psychology background as well, and so there are a lot of tools that you can use for coping. But I even mentioned that some of that comes up when Donna is talking about she needs something to help her cope with the things that are going on in her life, and she actually says that breathing exercises and coping techniques are not going to cut it this time. And so that I refer to that a little bit, and again, that's all from experiences from my own life. So faith plays a big part in that to help overcome that kind of stuff.
That's wonderful. So kind of a fun question. Here we go. Since we're talking about spiritual realities, this question, could have been as an icebreaker, but like I said, we're just going to drop them in as we go here. If your novel had to be exorcised by a famous theologian, dead or alive, who would you choose and why?
Oh.
So here's the thing.
I already know.
Okay, go ahead.
Smith Wigglesworth.
Okay. And why?
Well, he was extraordinarily Pentecostal. And by extraordinarily, I mean way over on the Pentecostal side. So he was, if you ever get a chance to read anything about Smith Wigglesworth, he was an extraordinary character. He wasn't a character; he was a real man. But he started out as a plumber, came to salvation, and then became an evangelist. And that's probably who I would have to pick.
All right.
It'd have to be somebody. It would have to be somebody way on that side.
That answers the question. That's straightforward. That's good. All right. One more fun question here. Mm-hmm. What's the creepiest Bible? And this sounds weird the way the question is, but I'm going to ask it anyway. What's the creepiest Bible verse that could double as a chapter title in your book?
Huh. Oh my gosh, man! I wish I'd had that one early. So I had an answer until you said it could double as a chapter title in the book. So I can give you the scene. King Saul, king of the Israelites. He goes and consults with a witch in order to contact Solomon. Is that right? No, wait. Samuel.
Yep.
Samuel. The Witch of Endor. Yes. There you did. That would be the title. Well, the Witch of Endor. That would be the chapter title right there. but yeah, that's I don't know if it's creepy, but I always thought that was one verse that I always dwelt on, and what I always thought was interesting was the fact that it validates the idea that there are witches, and so I'm just saying it's there.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's probably the creepiest scripture, I think, for me, just simply because he actually goes and talks to a witch so that he can talk to someone who's dead, Samuel, and it works. It actually, it actually happens, and so that to me is terrifyingly great. So I'm drawn to dark stories and that kind of stuff. So I while it's creepy, I love it.
So, in being a theological man myself, that chapter with that title would do the trick for me. I would be the one flipping through the book at the chapter, because that's kind of what I do too. Whatever book I'm reading, I flip through, look at the chapter titles, right, and then maybe peek inside those. But that would have made for an excellent book on that end.
Yeah.
So I think we've covered just about everything. You've talked about why the Appalachian setting a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Here we go. Let's talk about this. What about the title? What inspired the town of Redemption Falls?
Okay, so in my mind, again, drawing from childhood memories, growing up in an Appalachian area, that's Redemption Falls is exactly what I picture when I picture a small Appalachian town.
Mm-hmm.
And if you read the book, I'm a very descriptive writer. I use a lot of description, smells, sights, and sounds. And when I write, I even told my wife as I was writing this book, when I go into that world, I'm immersed, and I can hear leaves rustling on the sidewalk as you're walking down Main Street near Mama's on Main Street, which is a diner in the book. But I can feel the breeze blowing. I can feel the sun fade as the cloud cover comes over, and because it's for me, and that's the way I want the readers to experience it. So I write very descriptively, and I want the readers to be able to smell and hear the sounds and really feel like they're a part of it. But Redemption Falls is the picture that I have in my mind of any Appalachian town, and there actually is a real life Redemption Falls right here in Tennessee. And I had the opportunity to visit it back in October, and that's actually when the second book really took on a new role. I had actually already started the second book months before the first one was released. But you walk into this little town, it looks like Redemption Falls, and all the way down to in the book, there's a bookstore called the Book Nook. In this little town, it was called the Unkind Raven. That was the name of the bookstore, the one bookstore that was in the town. And they had Martha's Market, and in the book, it's Mama's on Main Street. I didn't find this town until after I had published the book. So
Wow.
this idea that I had in my mind of this Appalachian town already existed, obviously, because that's probably childhood memories. But I had never been to this town before until I had already published the book. And when we got there, I told my wife, I said, "This is Redemption Falls. This is crazy." Even they have a Revolutionary War graveyard, which is, I'm used to seeing Civil War graveyards, but this was a Revolutionary War graveyard. Just this town. And if you want to know what the name of the town is, I'll tell you, because it's not Redemption Falls. The name of this town is Dandridge, Tennessee. And Dandridge, Tennessee is the only Dandridge anywhere in the United States. There is no other city named Dandridge anywhere in the United States except in East Tennessee. So if you get a chance, please visit Dandridge, Tennessee. There's a mansion there called the Roper Mansion, and it's got to be haunted. They have a room that's full of nothing but dolls that have open eyes that open, terrifying. But
You were
but a lot of fun.
talking about that Saturday at dinner.
Yeah.
And
so,
there's actually somebody's job is actually go through and close the doll's eyes at closing time.
Yes, that is one of her jobs. At the end of the night, she closes the dolls, and oh my gosh, yeah. And my wife couldn't stay in the room; she had to leave. It just creeped her out, which I get. But I was like, I'm loving this. So Dandridge, Tennessee is the real life Redemption Falls. And so if you read the book and you think, man, I'd really like to see what a town like this would be like. Dandridge, Tennessee. That's the place to go. And we're actually going to be going and spending the weekend up there soon, because inspiration just strikes when I'm there. But the last time I was there, again, the second book really started to roll. The stories just started writing itself, and I started narrating as I'm walking down the street, and my wife's like, "Okay, stop."
So, does the what did you say the name of the bookstore there was? The
Unkind Raven.
That was in Dandridge, right?
That is in Dandridge, Tennessee.
The Unkind Raven.
Mhm.
So if you're in
And there's-
Dandridge, Tennessee, go ahead.
No, there's two bookstores that are carrying it. One is in Dandridge, Tennessee, the Unkind Raven. It's the only bookstore in Dandridge.
I was going to ask about that. Yep.
It's the only one. But it's a beautiful place. It's in an old farmhouse that's been remodeled and now used as a bookstore. But it's got some museum pieces in there too. So when you go in, you're going to see some museum pieces that are from the town, all going all the way back to the Revolutionary War, 1700, so circa 1820. Sorry, the 1780s and up to 1820. So it goes really, really far back. Like I said, there's a Revolutionary War cemetery there. That's 1700s. So you're going to see some museum pieces in there as well as the books. But they're great people there. The other bookstore is in Maryville, Tennessee, which is where I live. It's called Neighborly
Really Maryville?
No, it's Merville.
Merville. Okay.
Radio
right.
has helped me pronounce speak right.
You may be a published author, Jack, but don't you get too big for your britches.
Oh man, it took me years to start saying that right, because like I said, I was on the air locally for 3 years and had to learn to say Maryville instead of Merville.
I apologize. I interrupted. Go ahead. Maryville, what bookstore in Maryville?
Oh, Neighborly Books. Neighborly Books. They're right on Broadway in Maryville, or Merville, or however you want to pronounce it. But they're right on Broadway, and they're carrying it as well. And the copies that Neighborly Books have, they actually have autograph copies. So if you want to pick up an autograph copy and you don't know where I am to get an autograph, you can get one right there.
Right there in Maryville at Neighborly Books. Go get them. How many signed copies did you leave there?
Just 3 signed copies. But you're, you got a 1 in 3 chance.
Yep. We got a signed copy. I'm planning on hopefully before I die, maybe in 10 to 15 years, that it'll be worth tons, and I will sell it on eBay and retire.
Yep. Maybe one day it would be worth it when somebody actually knows who Rondé is. Maybe it would be worth something. But you know what? Like I said before, I wrote this book because, and I'm writing the other 2 books to follow. This is going to be a trilogy. So the second book will be coming out October 2026. The next one will hopefully be ready to come out the year after that. Again, I started writing the second one months before the first one was released. And then my trip to Dandridge just kind of sped that along. But with this, the reason I write these books is because I love telling the stories. I love these characters. And now I'm able to see my characters come to life through videos. I've got a couple of folks that have helped me with create just short video snippets to promote the book. And I get to see my characters right there come to life, walking and talking with each other and stuff. And it's mind blowing to be able to see that. And I'm like, I love these characters. I love Donna. I love Bo. I love Leia. I love their stories. I love their arcs. I love, how you see them come from one state to another, not like geographically, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
One state of being to another. and I truly love these characters. And I would love to introduce as many people to them as I can, because I really think people are drawn to them. And again, the comments that I get the most are, I want more of those characters. I want more exposition.
Well, that's exactly why we wanted to have you on, Ron, so that we can introduce a few more folks to you, to your writing. It's fantastic. Seriously, it's top notch. You have done a great job. And with the kind of the teaser that you threw out there, right? A second and a third coming.
Yeah.
it very well may end up that 5, 6, 10 years down the road that you end up doing maybe even origin stories.
That would be fantastic. I may do that anyway, even if
Yeah.
nobody wants it. I may do it anyway. Nobody really wanted the prequels to Star Wars, and Lucas
Right.
did it anyway. So
Right.
you know,
Well, yeah. Well, we as being older dudes, right? That's
Mhm.
all that we had growing up. What we came in on, was it 3, 4,
Right.
and 5, or 4, 5, and 6?
Yep.
Is what
it
started.
was 4, 5, and 6. Yeah.
Yeah, that was genius looking back on it, right?
Yeah.
And then they tried to bring in the Jar Jar Binks and ruined the whole thing.
Yep.
So
Well,
don't make that mistake. Don't bring in
No.
a goofy alien.
No, that's definitely not going to happen. At least not in this genre. What's crazy, the way my mind works, I've got a work in progress. I mentioned the second book, and the other day, the first line of a short story rolled through my mind in a completely different genre. I don't write sci-fi at all.
Mhm.
I don't even read sci-fi. I like sci-fi movies and shows, but I've never been a fan of sci-fi writing. And certainly wouldn't have thought I would write it. But all of a sudden, this first line of this short story, and I'll probably publish it for free because it is just going to be a short story. And all of a sudden, again, another female main character.
Mhm.
And so it's just, anyway, I don't want to get too far off on that. I do want to say though, if you don't like reading a book, you can also listen to this book. So it's available in 3 formats. It's available in paperback. It's also available in ebook and an audiobook. So if you go to Amazon, you'll find all 3 of those. They're available. The audiobook is voiced by me. Part of that's because I knew that I could do it, but also because I'm cheap and I didn't want to pay anybody to do it.
When you got the voice to do it, why not? I mean, again, you're fun just to listen to. So,
oh my gosh, it was so tedious though the reading. I was getting up at 5 a.m. every morning to record this, and that is hard to do when you're just trying to wake up at 5 a.m. And you go into my little office here and you throw a blanket over your head to muffle the sound so you don't get any bouncing off the walls. And that's my studio. That's a blanket over the head and the mic, and I'm reading. Oh,
that's an image there.
Just keep that in mind if you're listening to the audiobook. And I sent you a link for a free version or a free copy of that today. So take advantage of that. If you're too busy to read it, I completely get that. I've got 2 books right now that I'm actually reading. One of those I'm actually a beta reader for someone, and the other one is one that I downloaded because they're a fellow indie author, and the book just looked like it was too good not to get. And so I love to read, but finding the time to sit and read sometimes I get it can be difficult. So the audiobook helps with that.
So the physical book, paperback, the cost $14.99.
Yep.
Is that correct? And then the Kindle version or the digital download version is how much?
Mm-hmm. Kindle version is $9.99, but if you have Kindle Unlimited, it's also in Kindle Unlimited. So if you have that, then you can read it within your subscription, and I get paid by the page. I get paid by how many pages people read. So and then the audiobook right now, I believe they've got it. That one fluctuates a little bit, and I don't set the pricing on that one. ACX is the format or the platform, and they actually set the pricing based on the length of the book. It's about 4 hours and 20 minutes long, I think, is how long the read is. But that's usually hovers anywhere around $12 to $15, something like that.
All right.
Yeah.
So give up the frou-frou coffee for 2 days. You can get this book,
Yeah.
and you never can tell. Ron may just show up anywhere and everywhere you may see him. So carry your book with you. If you run into Ron in town, get him to sign your book.
I have asked people, if you're going to read it in public. Make sure there's people around that can see you reading it, and they'll be like, "Hey, what is that about?" And that way people will learn about my book. That's the downside of being an indie author. Yes, I get to keep all the rights to the book and I get to keep control of it, but I also am responsible for all the marketing, any publicity. It's all up to me. And so thank you for having me on today, because this is a huge help in that I'm not skilled in that area. So writing it was actually the easiest part compared to trying to market it and get it in front of people.
Well, I've got a couple of other folks that I'm going to talk with, Grace and Truth Press being one of them, to see if they'd be interested in carrying your book as well.
Okay.
Because they do, they're in everything. Of course, AI music is the big thing nowadays.
Right.
And again, I'm like the grumpy old man about that. That's, you know, it's worse than the invention of auto-tune, right? Folks who don't need to be on a record just because they got figured out auto-tune. They got records and records and records, and all these suckers are paying them money. And they ain't done nothing. But
agreed.
But in any case, so I'll be glad to reach out to them on that and get back to you there. But we do want to thank you for being on tonight. This has been such a enjoyable time. I know you got to be tired, like you said. I know you don't. You said you ain't got to be nowhere till 8 in the morning, but you got a busy and a busy life and a hard job. That's in a family that you're taking care of. So we won't keep you any longer. I do want to say this. I meant to say it at the very beginning of the podcast. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas.
Oh. Merry Christmas.
And you may be thinking to yourself, it's not even Thanksgiving yet. No,
it's not.
But to me, as a Christian man, every day is Christmas. It's either almost Christmas, Christmas Day, or almost Christmas.
That's funny.
So thank you again for being on, and we will sign off with that. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining with us. And again, leave your comments, leave your questions. Ron can check them periodically and answer your questions. Go buy his book, suggest it to your friends and your family. God bless you.
One last thing. Instagram. If you're on Instagram, I'm at @RonDay_author. @RonDay_author. It's very simple.
RONDAY_author AUTHOR on IG. Go check him out. Love y'all.